Sound speed. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Park Score podcast. Here I am with General Chud. I'm just kidding. This is my boy Ben. He's the homie from the hometown. Well, it's like my new hometown. It's his Ben hometown for a minute. We don't have to say the name of the actual town.
Been here though. Day one.
Yeah, make sure you use the
mic.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. We got a lot to cover in today's episode. I gotta make sure we get everything. Okay, so Ben, tell us. Just a lot of women watch this podcast.
Wow.
What kind of woman are you looking for?
Coming out swinging. All right.
I'm kidding. We don't have to do that to begin with. Okay, so we were actually going to talk on today's podcast about the phenomenon of chudding out. What is chudding out? How do you avoid chudding out? Where have you observed this phenomenon?
Yeah. So the question, what is chudding out? It's a pretty broad ranging. I would say how to avoid it. I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Yeah.
You know,
I have a tendency to chud. So chudding from my brief amount of research. So I think it comes from Chud Jack, which if you guys have ever seen Chud Jack, are you aware of the fact? I was talking to Maddie yesterday about this. Are you aware of the fact that the Chud Jack meme, literally, it comes from a school shooter?
No.
Yes, this guy.
Are you serious? Is that Elliot Rogers?
No,
not
Rogers.
Who is that?
This is, man, I forget the name of this guy. If I remember, I'll pull it up later. But yeah, that meme comes from the outline of like a school shooter.
Yo, are you serious?
And then
I actually can't believe that. I did not know that.
What was funny is that like years later, when he actually went to trial, he had like a glow up, and a lot of people were looking at him. Oh, Patrick Crusius. There we go. And then, yeah, we got people saying it can't be the same guy because he had like a glow up.
Oh my gosh, he looks just like it. Yeah, you're right.
Bro,
no, that's insane.
That's him. So it's the guy from the Billions meme. Billions must. But then also it's been changed into Billions must be baptized. We might get into Orthodoxy a little bit, or I guess the phenomena of Ortho Bros here in a minute. But yeah, chudding out. It's like you're a young right-wing gentleman, and you maybe are so I think chud originally began as like a slur, kind of like a slur of
most likely. Yeah. I think it came from a movie.
Really?
Yeah, the farthest traces back was, I think it was from it might have been a horror movie from like way in the back, like back in the day, and chuds were like the monsters in the movie. Like if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure, because I did a little bit of some research on it like a while back.
Wow. Okay.
But it's evolved, it's like taken on its own life.
So Chud is a 1984 cult classic about cannibalistic mutants living in sewers beneath New York City, created by toxic waste dumping. So I always thought that Chud, because it sounds a lot like Chad. I always thought that legit, it sounds like Chad. But you hear about Chad, it's like, Chad is somebody who mogs. A Chad is handsome, gentleman.
Yeah.
And chud to me just sounds like the pejorative term of like somebody who's not a Chad.
It could be, yeah.
But recently it's kind of taken on the connotation of, say, like a right wing or like autist schizo type person who, I think the best explanation of it would be they overemphasize correctness or like being factually correct over like, say, social convention.
Yeah.
And when you're chudding out, it's whenever it's kind of almost like chimping out, where you're kind of you're making an ass of yourself. You're making an ass of yourself. And also I've usually heard it in reference to like Nick Fuentes will talk about people chudding out at like family dinners or something. And I think it just means making an ass of yourself and also people that are associated with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, you started first talking about chudding out because obviously I'm Orthodox. There's an online phenomenon right now of quote unquote Ortho Bros, which is just like people who are fans of Jay Dyer. I like Jay Dyer. He's dope. Hopefully we can talk about him later, but people accuse his fans of being chuds.
Yeah.
And I think it's definitely a possibility. It's definitely.
Yeah. 100%.
And I think I've shut it out. more
I
than
have as
once?
well. I've definitely chudded out. And
What's
I didn't know I was chudding out until I was made privy to what chudding was. You know, but I definitely did.
so what was that experience, I guess?
I don't know. It's so like we had a conversation about like 2 months ago about Orthodoxy. I didn't really know what it was. I came to the Divine Liturgy with him, and so it was like a really cool new thing. There's a Israeli operative trying to sting me.
Bro, chill.
I'm just kidding.
Chill. We gotta. Hey,
I'm just kidding.
hold on. I already gotta bleep this.
Sorry, bro. Sorry. My bad. But yeah, we were talking about Orthodoxy. He asked me some questions that I had never heard before, and I started doing some research into like church history, things like that, coming from a Protestant background. And I started having debates with my dad about it, you know, immediately. And I love my dad; he's awesome. Like I run a lot of stuff by him because I trust his opinion. But immediately, I started arguing with everybody about like, you know, it's not what the church fathers believed. And I didn't realize how much harm it was doing until I kind of realized I'm like, wow, these are like kind of pointless arguments. Like I'm not gonna change his mind. You know what I mean? And
so the way that could be considered chudding out is it's like it's a emphasis on being correct, but at the cost of the social like status of people that are also involved with that opinion.
Yeah.
Because I also have chudded out on many people I know about things like church fathers and things like Orthodoxy and stuff. So I get it. And yeah, I guess the main thing with shutting out is just that it's kind of counterproductive. But also, if you're excited about a topic, or you actually do feel like it's kind of worth other people knowing about, then I understand why people would shut out. But
yeah.
But and also I think it kind of connects a little bit to the kind of looks maxing phenomenon as well.
Yeah.
Because the concept is, if you're handsome, then you can kind of get away with shutting out. In a way,
yeah, you can,
because then you're not shutting out.
I've seen it online. Yeah,
you can get away with ranting, or you can get away with putting forth a controversial opinion because it's kind of like people just accept it. So yeah, I think the main thing about shutting out is it's about optics. It's about like you're making your side look bad. But there's that meme where it says, this is a perfect example of shutting out. There's a meme that says, I'll throw it up on the screen here. What is it? It says, how ortho bros feel after saying anathema heretic to their Catholic grandmother.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Daniel sent that, right?
Well, I sent it.
Oh,
Daniel sent it to me a long time ago, but then I like went and searched it out.
It's classic.
Yeah, it's just funny. But also, I think I definitely fall into the camp of ortho bro. I think I definitely probably fall into that camp because, I think people try to counter signal Jay Dyer. I think Jay Dyer is dope. I think he's a smart guy, chill guy. I think he's been maligned by a lot of people online. Really, like
he has.
I think that if you do well enough in debates, people legit just hate you.
Yeah, they want to see you lose at something.
Yeah,
like if you
literally.
never lose a debate, that's like, okay, well, what else is there? Like, what can we dig up? He's mean. He's mean. He's
right. That's the well, and also too, and I was gonna release a video about this. I recorded a video about this today, which is just that, like, Orthodoxy is obviously kind of having a moment right now, and I think one of the draws and also one of the things people hate about Orthodoxy is just that it puts forth like exclusivist claims. They say that they're the one true church, and that's scandalizing to people, and it can, I guess, maybe come off as like triumphalist to some people, but if that's the confession, then like you would just expect the adherents to adhere to it. But switching gears a little bit, did you ever look into the alien disclosure?
So like, this may be just kind of like a stupid take, but like I read that it had happened, and it was like a great group of files and stuff, and it was like these pictures of like triangle lights and things, and I had already like heard about Father Seraphim Rose talking about Orthodoxy and the religion of the future. And what I heard was that towards like the end of the fight against Christianity, aliens will be like one of their last like cards that they throw out to be like, it almost seems like atheists like religion a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's sort of their like angelology. It's like
Yeah.
the angelology of science goobers.
I like almost don't. My first reaction is to just not believe it and just be like, it could be, those files could be real. There could be like sightings and stuff, but my first instinct is not to just trust the government these days. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really think it's that crazy. But I see a lot of people online freaking out over it and, you know, stuff like that. So
The thing about the disclosure for me was, number one, it's nothing that people haven't already been saying before, which is like, oh, there was this weird thing that showed up on a blip sonar thing, and then they said that there was a light flashing overhead, and
pill-shaped spaceship.
there's a
up and down and left and right.
And like the government website for it, it was, what was so disorienting about it was everything about government websites, government institutions is like bare minimum effort. You go to the DMV, they're like, they don't give a shit about the quality of the experience or anything like that. But the UFO disclosure website was like UFO.gov, black techno layout. I was like, they spent so much time doing the graphic design on the UFO disclosure thing. It's like legit, like, damn, they're really, I guess, to me, it just made it feel even more like a psyop, because it's like, if it was like some legit stuff, they wouldn't try to make it look cool or make it look sleek or make it look.
I know.
But the fact that they try to do like this cool like website layout, like, oh yeah, aliens, and it's black, and the website loads in like a cool way. It's just like, it just
does it load in like a different way? I haven't seen it.
It loads it like the way like the website like builds out. It's just like, bro, really? Like,
yeah,
it's just, the whole thing kind of screams faking gay. I think mostly people have already forgotten about it. I don't think literally anybody was
really
moved by it. I haven't seen anybody who was like, holy crap, do you guys see like this? Yeah, literally. I haven't even seen people soy facing about it. So
yeah, that's
like,
crazy. I mean, the thing is, like, people have been soy facing about it before it was even out. Like, that has been, I know people, my jiu-jitsu coach, he's talked about aliens a few times. He's got like the idea that aliens are like, if they exist, they're interdimensional, like demons almost. Like, they're like, I don't know. It's just weird. Like, everybody kind of has an opinion. I have friends who are pretty well-researched Christians who are just like, there is no way aliens exist at all. Like, they are not real. And then I have people who are like, aliens could exist. Yeah, it's weird. There's a wide variety from what I've heard.
Well, and apparently they like have released, that's what they have on aliens, and they've released it, and now the public can know, and it's supposed to be this big thing that's supposed to shake people's worldview and their faith and stuff. And it was just nothing. Like, it was literally nothing at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I heard that Jimmy Carter cried whenever he first heard the news about it, that he cried. And it was like, wait, what made him cry? Like,
dude,
like, I don't know.
That's just so weird, dude.
That Jimmy Carter cried.
That just doesn't.
Well, Jimmy Carter might just be a sensitive guy. I mean,
maybe, dude, maybe.
Yeah. So they're trying to push aliens, and I don't think anybody. You would expect people to shut out about it.
Yeah. I mean, this is huge. This is like huge. I think like it's kind of been overshadowed with like the whole Epstein thing. For me, at least, like from what I've heard, it's like there has been so much stuff going on in the government recently that like aliens, it's like Satanists, aliens, and then everyone's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Back to this, you know. It's like this is like we for sure know the Epstein stuff. At least a lot of it is like completely real. Like, that's actually happening. Aliens, it's just like
I saw a video where some vloggers went to, you know, Jeff Stein's island.
Dude,
did you see that?
Yes, I was. They like snuck on there, right? With kayaks. That was crazy.
It's a really crazy video, very good video. But also, my question is, because I've seen that video where they, number one, they don't really, nothing happens. It's like they sneak onto the island, they go up to the striped temple, they look inside the windows, there's an empty bookcase, there's nothing. It's like, oh yeah, cool. I'm glad you guys did that. That's cool. But also, it's weird to me that we're just broadcasting trespassing. Don't get me wrong. I love the video. I'm glad that it got made. But also, something's fishy about that.
Yeah, I don't know how I was like literally thinking that during the video. I'm like, okay, so they're getting on a kayak, going across the ocean to the island and recording themselves. I mean, they like that one dude like ripped a part of the plywood off of the front of the temple. Like they like did destruction of property. Like that's, I don't know.
Destruction of property, trespassing.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that they're filming all of it and saying that they like that's like intent.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
Something about it kind of is fishy to me.
Yeah.
I think part of it might be. Here's my schizo theory. Ready?
Yeah.
There's already so much mystique and curiosity built up around the island, and so if you shroud it in even more obscurity and mystery, then people want to keep digging. But if you kind of let something like this happen, where people go up and they kind of check it out, and then because my takeaway from the video was, oh yeah, there's nothing really to see here, because they went up as far as you could go and they didn't really see or find anything interesting.
Yeah. And there were so many of those like maps with like giant tunnels underneath the, the little striped building or whatever. And they were saying like, dude, it's not here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So part of it might be kind of intentionally letting them do that so that it dispels curiosity. Another thing in that exact same vein, I was talking to you and Daniel the other day about Tyler Oliveira.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tyler Oliveira has massive swingers, dude. He's like got some hangers.
Dude. That guy has balls
iron.
of steel. I have never. Did you see his latest video? He got denied entry to Israel. Did you see that?
No. Well, I saw him talking about it. I saw one though where he went to Bohemian Grove.
Bro, I haven't seen that one, but you told me about it.
He snuck into Bohemian Grove and like ran up in there, and people chased him down, and like he was pretty much getting chased through there, and he got all the way to the point where there's all those like benches. Mm-hmm. And have you seen the Alex Jones documentary where he actually does get into Bohemian Grove?
No, I haven't. No, I've heard about it.
There's an Alex Jones documentary where he gets into Bohemian Grove and he watches the Moloch owl ceremony take place.
Is that where that footage from the phone comes from, or no?
Yeah.
Okay, because I remember seeing that when that was first coming out.
The ceremony is called the cremation of care, and in it they burn an effigy of a child before the owl. And obviously, nobody knows, but people suspect that it may not just be an effigy. Who knows?
Oh
I'm not making that accusation.
Yeah. No, I would never, and I would never like either. Like,
no,
never. I mean, like I'm a perfectly content person.
I love life.
Yeah.
Like I actually do love life.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But anyways, but seriously, like, yeah, no, it's crazy. Like Alex Jones gets in there and is like,
dude, it's
taking video.
That's totally. So like with the Epstein stuff and with some of these emails that were leaked, that is totally tame. Like everybody is like, probably if that came out now, everyone would be like, oh yeah, like just another day. Like, yeah, they're definitely burning like real life kids or,
right. Right. Well,
hypothetically.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing is like a lot of famous people and a lot of very powerful people were implicated in the Epstein files. And also there was a clear, consistent theme of, abuse of young kids. And so it is just logical that if you got this going on over here and then over here you got this big meeting of powerful elites, I would be so shocked if Epstein was not involved with Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, no, I mean,
or at least the people who were in charge of Epstein were in charge of Bohemian Grove. I gotta quit saying his name. We've already done so many like words that will like flag the algorithm.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I mean right off the bat, but
it's okay. I'll go and like edit stuff out. You can say whatever you want. I'll just censor shit. But no, it's crazy. I highly recommend you guys watch that. It's insane. The whole concept of the cremation of care ceremony is that. So in the biblical, in the Bible, Moloch is this supposed god of the Canaanites, I think, and his unique, I guess, function was that you would sacrifice your child to Moloch, and you would receive wealth, prosperity, fertility, all the good stuff. But in the cremation of care ceremony at Bohemian Grove, the cremation of care specifically refers to them burning the child effigy is them pretty much saying like, we're burning up our cares, we're burning up our concerns, we're burning up our worries, and we are just gonna, because also Bohemian Grove, the whole point behind it is after they do that, it's a big, party. That's what that's what it is. You never heard that audio recording of Richard Nixon where he says, I'm gonna bleep this part out. Richard Nixon says, the Bohemian Grove, it's the most thing I've ever seen.
Actually,
Richard Nixon. There's a video. Yeah,
that's insane. I no, I haven't seen that.
Just keep talking. Keep talking, and I'll.
Chud University in session, class number 1.
Yeah, so we're gonna chud out on this episode. We're just getting started.
100%.
But yeah, Richard Nixon. He was no fan of Bohemian Grove.
Yeah,
and also, if you will remember, Richard Nixon was the one who was impeached after the Watergate scandal.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
So he counter-signaled Bohemian Grove, and then he was removed.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised. Just saying. All right, check this out. Yeah. Anyways.
Wow.
No. Yeah. Atheists can chud too. The big thing is that they try to be like, oh yes, we're the rational people, we're the reasonable people, and we're the humane people.
That is the craziest claim of them all, in my opinion.
Yeah, that they're uniquely moral, or that they're uniquely compassionate or something because they don't follow these false religions. Yep. And then they turn, when grandma is about to pass on, they're like, I just know that I'm content because I know I will spend eternity with Jesus. And he's like,
Actually, we now know that you will not.
we now know
you will not.
Actually, God does not exist. He's not real.
That's the crazy thing. Me and you have laughed before about the we now know thing.
Yeah,
that is like the most prideful, arrogant crap ever. Because it's like, we now know what. Like, and how do we know that? How do we know that?
We, as a collective, everybody knows. It's obvious.
We're up to date now. Those ancient people were so stupid. That's another thing too. Is like we always accuse or think that ancient people are so much dumber than us, but it's like objectively they had far less to work with and were able to do way more stuff.
Yeah.
And people say, yeah, if I was to go back in time, I would tell them all about electricity and iPhones and Wi-Fi and germ theory and blow their mind. And then there's that meme where somebody goes back in time and was like, yeah, and so in the future we use electricity, and they're like, oh, that's amazing. How do you build it? And he's like, I don't know. Yeah. So it's like, just because you're a modern person doesn't mean you're any smarter.
No, it's weird. I kind of fall into that trap sometimes. I don't think that way when I'm thinking of like saints and stuff, but like whenever I'm thinking back to like olden days, I tend to kind of scale down what they know. Except like I also have to realize we are like scrolling on like social media consistently. We have like so many more distractions, whereas they probably had so much time to kind of like sit and think and analyze like text instead of just having it searched up for them or whatever.
Right.
And they are the basis of like almost everything we believe, as humans, like of science, of religion, of all that stuff. Like they have laid the groundwork for how we live. So we owe them a lot of respect. And
and they had more time, but also we have the same amount of time. We just kind of wasted on scrolling. Yeah. They did this study recently where if you take like 2 weeks off from like scrolling on your phone and you just spend all your time just, I don't know, working on stuff around you and getting into your hobbies and stuff, they show that there's like a measurable marked difference in like stress levels, overall health, overall life satisfaction.
Yeah.
And it just kind of makes sense because I waste so much time per day scrolling, and I think about, I have a lot of hobbies. Like I got a lot of stuff I want to do. I want to lift. I want to drum. I want to make videos. There's all kinds of stuff I want to do. I want to read a lot. And I look at my scroll time sometimes and it'll be like 4 or 5 hours a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's bad.
No, it's me too.
It's
terrible.
Really bad.
It's terrible. Yeah.
Which not all of that 4 or 5 hours is like just pure scrolling, it might be like an hour on Twitter and then like, I don't know, 4 hours like watching YouTube. And when I say watching YouTube, it'll be like I'll be out on a walk or like driving.
Yeah, I do that with driving too. My YouTube hours are crazy because I'm driving. When I was going to school somewhere, it was like 45 minutes away. So I was driving 45 minutes there back. And then whenever I was going to like, church, the Orthodox church that I go to, it's like 45 minutes, an hour from my house. So like anytime I'm like driving, that's another thing. I don't have a lot of time in silence. When I've been looking into, Orthodox Christianity, a lot of these people will say, turn off your music in your car and just pray, say the Jesus prayer, things like that.
Yeah.
And that's so foreign to me. Whereas like, imagine the olden days, man. I think people were probably a lot more okay with being still and just like sitting. They probably got bored, but the attention span it's bad. Like I could admit that for me specifically.
So specifically, I've one thing that I actually do struggle with and end up going to confession for a lot is feeling like I'm not focused enough or feeling slothful or feeling, I don't know, like the word for it is acedia, which means like not giving the proper attention to the proper thing at the proper time.
Yeah. And
when I've gone to confession about it in the past, one of the most helpful things I ever heard was from Father David. And he said, he didn't, I didn't tell him that this was something I was doing, but he just kind of piped up and said, not every moment has to be like filled with some noise or some video or podcast or something. And I was like, I thought about it and I was like, yeah, every single second of my day, I'm listening to something.
Yeah.
Unless I'm actually like actively working on something, in which case I'm getting some other form of input. Like when it comes to like reading or something, I'm not listening to a podcast while I'm reading, but that's also kind of a different form of input. Books are like almost like ancient podcasts kind of, but I think they're better because they require more
significantly
work.
Better. Dude, reading is hard for me. Like sitting down and reading, you don't realize like how much your mind is trying to go without you until you sit down and read. And especially when I'm reading like the Bible or any sort of holy book or whatever, it is so hard for me to focus. I'll read something and immediately my thoughts will branch out, and I'm ADHD like to the core, but also I'm so preoccupied with everything else. They call them shower thoughts, but it's maybe just because like that's the only time you're not able to like scroll on your phone because you actually have to like literally like focus on cleaning yourself. Whereas like, man, back in the day, they probably had 2 hours of shower thoughts outside the shower, at least.
One thing though that I've heard, and I forget which like Orthodox person said this, but that you are born in the time wherein you have the best chance to be saved. Like you're not born at a random period of history. You might yearn for like a time past. You might think, oh, I should have been born in the 1950s. And then I'm like, why did you say the 1950s in particular? But we'll revisit that. But
yeah.
No,
excuse me.
No, but seriously, like you're born in the time that you are, like for a reason. You have the best chance of being saved right now, because maybe if you would have been born in the past, you wouldn't have been able to handle those like those, I guess, spiritual struggles that they had then. But like this time now, yes, we have unique struggles, but also you stand the best chance, where you're at. But no, yeah, it's real. One thing about reading though, one thing that kind of helps me with reading is if I'm just kind of purely reading for entertainment or just because I'm like, I find a book interesting, that's one thing. It's easy to get like sidetracked. But if I kind of have a goal or something like that, like if I know that I'm going to have to talk about a book, or I know that I'm going to have to, like for example, I've wanted to read all the church fathers for a while now. And so I find that because I have that goal and I know kind of the pace at which I'm able to read, like I know I can read roughly, hold up, this died. I can read roughly like 30 books in a year is what I've learned.
Yeah.
And so because of that, we now know that because of that, I know, I'm like, all right, so if there's like this many books of church fathers, then I know that I can finish all the church fathers in, say, 2 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, having a goal. Also, I did some work with, there's like a philosophy YouTuber guy named Justin Murphy who I worked with for a little while. And his whole thing was like the independent scholar. That was his brand. And it was about teaching people online how to create personal brands where they write about their academic interests and stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I was just shooting videos for him.
Yeah.
And one of the most important things that I kind of gleaned from that period of time was that he was like, if you read 3 books on any topic, you know more than 95% of all people on that topic.
Yeah.
No, all it takes is 3 books.
That's crazy.
And
that's true.
You really don't think that that's the case until you start talking to people. Have you ever heard of like expert bias?
No, I mean, I've probably heard the term, but I don't. Maybe explain it.
So it's like people in a given industry or people in a given field of expertise, they drastically overstate their level of expertise. And even whenever they're trying to compensate for what they think a layperson may know in their field, or like what a beginner level or novice should know, they still overestimate. And so like an example of this was one time I asked my mom, I said, Mom, what would you think if I converted to Judaism? I was just kind of messing with her. I wasn't there. I've never actually considered that.
Yeah.
I said, what would you think if I converted to Judaism? Because I'm thinking that she's going to be like, oh, you'd be forsaking Christ. You would be, this or that. And she just goes, oh, I mean, that would be weird. It'd be different. And I was like, okay, that's all, like just weird or different. And she was like, oh yeah, I mean, like, I just don't know much about it. And I was like, I mean, do you know that I would essentially not be a Christian anymore? She was like, what? So
you just be Judeo-Christian,
right?
No,
but what I mean to say is that you study a given topic, or you've read, I don't know, 3 books on the topic, and you think, I don't know that much compared to an expert on this topic.
Yeah.
But you drastically overstate how much, that level of familiarity actually sets you apart from just the average person on any topic. Like, for example, I heard this Reformed pastor one time talk about how when people call up to his church, they'll say, hey, what kind of church are you? And he'll say, oh, we're a Reformed church. And he'll be like, what does that mean? He's like, oh, like we affirm the 5 solas. And he's like, no. Like, do I have to wear pants? And he was like, oh, yeah, it's encouraged. But what he was kind of talking about, this Reformed pastor, his name is Paul Vanderklay. Paul Vanderklay was talking about how, being someone who has looked into religion or has studied it for any amount of time, you end up overestimating how little the average person actually knows.
Yes. Yeah.
It's crazy.
I was the average person 2 months ago. Like I remember how little I knew.
Right.
Like, and I still don't know much at all. I've like absorbed so much of this like Orthodox knowledge of just like what the Orthodox Church believes and what the church father, who they were, what the Reformation was. I mean, all this stuff was like I would say I learned a lot about like biblical stories, and I learned a lot about like what we should do as Christians, but almost nothing about church history or why we believe certain things other than the fact that they're in the Bible, why we can trust the Bible. I mean, all that stuff is like completely new. And that's what I'm saying. When I was talking to you, you opened my eyes to like how much I didn't know. And then going online, you start, when I'm shutting out and I'm talking to people about that, they don't know it. And I'm like, how do you not know? Oh, yeah. I didn't know it 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah. Like,
I had read the whole Bible, and I was like a hardcore born again Christian for like a year before I ever asked the question, where's the Bible come from? Like, how do we even get it? How did these books come together?
Literally.
But yeah, anyways, when it comes to reading, again, what I think about in terms of reading, what helps me read for like, I don't know, 1-2 hours at a time and end up finishing like 30-40 books in a year is I think about it in terms of goals. I think if I can only read 3 books on a topic then I will know more than 95% of people on this topic. And if I can read 36 books in a year, that's 12 topics that I am in the top 5% on in terms of like just familiarity with the topic. And so that's what helps me is thinking about it in terms of like goals.
Yeah. And something you said the other day, we were talking on the phone about, church fathers and different things like that. And I was talking about how I'm reading Justin Martyr right now, First and Second Apologies. And some of it is a little bit over my head. Like they were talking about, he'll bring up stuff that we don't really have to worry about anymore, like certain philosophies that were really popular back in the day. It's like around 150 AD, things like that. And he also brings up things we do believe today. But what Parks told me was like, if you read things more for like an idea, right? It was like if you don't have to remember exactly what every single paragraph was about, things like that, because then it could feel kind of overwhelming. But as long as you have an idea of what he was saying after reading, a certain chapter or whatever, it kind of tracks back. You'll probably know more because another thing is like whenever there's someone mentions it and you don't really even remember reading it, but you're like, oh yeah, hey, that is true or that is not true. It'll come back into your brain even like, a month later when you didn't even realize that you had absorbed it, so
right.
That was that helped me. I was like, yeah, that's actually a good point. If you asked me what Justin Martyr was talking about, I could mention the seeds of truth thing, things like that. Whereas if I was trying to recite, what he thought about Epicureans, I could probably not do a great job.
Yeah. And that was something, because whenever I was reading a lot for like the past year or two, I would get really discouraged because I'd finish an entire book and I would think, I couldn't tell you anything. And I thought it was a problem with my comprehension or my retention or something like that. But in truth, I do think that the way to learn things is you absorb a lot and then you try to contextualize it in a project or you try to contextualize it in a conversation and then expect to forget 99% of what you read. But also like you were saying, you do get to a level of familiarity where maybe you can't recite Justin Martyr's First Apology or you can't, draw the main points out. But if somebody in a conversation starts quote mining Justin Martyr or they start trying to like lie about what he taught, you have sort of a censor in your mind where you're like, that's not what he meant.
I've read through that before. That Bible verse, that's out of context. Because like for me, if it's something that catches me off guard or something that I wasn't prepared to hear, it will stick in my brain. Right. So like if I'm reading a Bible verse and it says something pretty crazy, I'll be like, whoa. And I'll remember that years later. If someone brings it up, I'll be like, I remember when I had that question. Yeah. I did research. Actually, you need to look at the context because it isn't saying what you think it was saying.
Right.
Because I remember dealing with that. Right. And so whenever things are connected to a certain idea or a certain thing that you had thought about before, it's easier to remember them, for me at least. Like if you were to bring up marriage, you could probably think of a few verses in the Bible or from the saints that mention marriage explicitly, whereas if someone had just maybe brought up their name or kind of asked you for a specific verse, like it's easier to connect it to an idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For me.
Have you seen that Simpsons clip where it's like, so they have in the Simpsons, their local pastor is like Anglican, which is kind of funny and weird that like in the Simpsons, everyone's Anglican. It's weird, but, yeah, I think it does go to show like because this was early Simpsons. I do think it goes to show the decline in the mainline Protestant influence in the monoculture and just the decline in the monoculture to begin with. But Reverend Lovejoy in the Simpsons, he's at dinner with the Simpsons family and he tells Homer, he's like, Homer, you need to remember the story of the man who built his house on sand. And he's like quoting like a Bible passage. And Homer goes, oh, yeah, well, you need to remember Matthew such and such and such and such. And the Reverend was like, have you seen this?
No.
The Reverend goes, and Jesus left from there and went into Bethany and lodged there.
Dude, that's great. Dude, that's great.
I love that. I love that. Because you see people, it's like popular in American culture, I guess, or it used to be, to have like little things where it'd be like Isaiah 49 such and such, Matthew such and such and such and such, and it's always something very uplifting. It's always something like if you're not, I'm always with you, something like that. But I've always kind of thought, what if you just like quoted like some like a random verse, like if a woman seizes a man's genitals when he is in the midst of a fight and harms them, then she is to be put to death.
Yeah.
Like,
that's crazy.
Could you imagine if somebody had like a tattoo of that and they're like, yeah, it's just really meaningful to me.
Stuck with me because it happened one time outside of a bar, I remember, and I found the verse.
It's just kind of,
that's insane.
Because I think it leads to funny scenarios when you take certain Bible verses out of context. Like, for example, somebody had made like a wall decoration where it had a Bible verse, and it was like Luke such and such and such. If you fall down and worship me, I will give you everything you desire. And that's a quote from Satan. that's a quote.
Dude, I remember you telling me about that.
That's a quote from Satan in the Gospels when he's trying to tempt Christ. He says, if you fall down and worship me, I will give you like all the desires of your heart. It's something like that. I'm paraphrasing. But yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of funny, the scenarios that can lead to just taking stuff out of context.
Dude, speaking of that, like, did you see that Instagram thing where this girl was making like a video? It was like one of these like girl power chicks, and she was like, whatever he did, I agree with her. And it was a picture of who was it? John the Baptist's head on a platter. What was it, holding it?
Yeah,
and he's like,
horrible.
that's John the Baptist. Like, and she's like, whatever she did, he probably deserved it. And the dude was like, that's John the Baptist, dude. Like, you're evil for saying that. Like,
yeah, I think.
Oh my gosh.
I think in general, people maybe just aren't conditioned to be as reverent as maybe they ought to be about certain things, and it leads to stuff like that where it's like, you think you're making. I saw one time this chick, she put like a image of like Taylor Swift's head on like an icon of Jesus or something like that. And it was a girl that I mentioned this in one of the videos. It was a girl that I was on a date with one time, and she like posted that after the date. And I think this is what ultimately made her want to stop talking to me. But I just hit her back. I was like, hey, you need to delete that. That's blasphemy. Because it is.
Yeah. No,
like
literally.
Yeah. Like it's crazy. But, but I did want to talk to you on the podcast today. So we were going to talk about, this happened a long time ago, but the Charlie Kirk event.
Yeah.
Obviously, so for you had mentioned before how that was kind of, I guess, your like political awakening.
Yeah, it was weird. So I remember during like coronavirus, probably like 2020, when we were outside of school. I grew up in a pretty strict household, so like I was not usually allowed to have my phone in my room past like 10 p.m. It was like just mandatory house rules, which was good. It was good for me. I had to read or I had to do something else. But around like 2020, like whenever we were out of school, my dad started not enforcing it as much. So I was able to have my phone more. I would stay up late watching TikTok. I was fat and stupid. And so I would stay up watching TikTok and stuff like that. And I started getting into like politics and just like seeing what people were saying. But I didn't have any sort of understanding of how things worked. I was just, during Corona, everybody was online. Everybody was freaking out about stuff. There was some like Trump controversy, like all types of fun stuff. And so I had gotten into politics for a little while, but I realized like very quickly how volatile it was and how divisive it was, because people were posting things like, if you believe this, unadd me, like we are no longer friends, no matter who you are, like unadd, and stuff like that. And I was getting into debates with people that I was like pretty close with that were ending in like just very bad ways. It was like, we can't be friends anymore, stuff like that. And I've repaired most of those relationships, but that was huge. I realized how like volatile things were. So I kind of distanced myself, and I was like, all right, well, I'm kind of I'm not a centrist at all. I'm pretty right wing, but I was pretty much thinking I can believe right wing things, but I don't really have to let people know if they disagree with me. I don't really have to tell them, or I don't want to step on anybody's toes, things like that. I want to be very conservative with who I tell my true opinions to.
Based.
I mean, they're not that crazy. They're not insane opinions, but they sound crazy when you're like,
well, it's just smart to keep your cards close to your chest, because people legit are nuts.
People are crazy. I mean, they shoot people in the neck for believing stuff. So, anyways, literally, no, like it's insane. But then, recently, with Charlie Kirk getting killed, I was like, I remember I was driving home from school, and somebody sent like the video of him getting killed, and I like had watched it, and I have not felt that amount of like dread. I felt like sick to my stomach. It was extremely graphic, and it like literally, I feel like it shook me awake. I had never like experienced something like that where I was like, whoa, like that, like literally just like completely altered my perspective. And it wasn't just him getting killed in such a brutal, disturbing way that affected me. It was immediately the celebration and the aftermath.
Oh yeah, that was the craziest part.
Immediate. I mean, I'm talking within the hour. Like I had to delete Instagram because I found myself becoming like hateful. And I was like, this is not who I am. I'm not a hateful person. I don't wish harm on people. And I was immediately like, you guys are all like subhuman. Like I was like extreme. I was getting super worked up about it. And it was, what makes it even worse is like he died the day before I had to get my wisdom teeth removed. So I went to the freaking doctor, got my wisdom teeth removed. And when I was under anesthetics and I was all groggy, I was after the operation, I was stuck in my bed scrolling Instagram, and there was Fuentes. There was all these like super far right versus super far left opinions. I was seeing all the clips of people celebrating, mocking his death. And it just was like so much for me. I like realized like, okay, so like Charlie Kirk is like a milk-bred basic Republican. He's not anything crazy.
He was criticized by people on the right, like Fuentes.
Yes, for being.
The last thing I had heard about Charlie Kirk before that event was I was maybe I want to say sophomore in college, and I had begun to, I mean, I was political in high school. I got interested in that. I mean, I was 16 when Donald Trump ran for president. So obviously that kind of converged into pretty, like, I guess, hot-headed zeal for political issues. But I remember seeing a video where Nick Fuentes had sent some groypers to Charlie Kirk's event to ask him questions about his loyalty to our Middle Eastern ally,
our greatest
Middle Eastern ally, and to and just questions about immigration and stuff. And Charlie Kirk was not giving very coherent answers. He wasn't really giving any answers at all. He was kind of going to the, I guess, like leftist playbook of just like trying to character assassinate the people that were asking the questions. And it was like,
it was insane.
They're reasonable questions. Like, you would have been better off just giving legitimate answers or giving your best attempt at an answer rather than just trying to, like, you know, shut it down. But anyways, that was the last that I had seen about Charlie Kirk, and I kind of just wrote him off. I thought, yeah, he's kind of bought off. He's not like a sincere or like serious figure to pay much attention to. And then the very next time that I like heard about him was obviously right when that happened. And whenever I did, what it did was, I don't know who ultimately orchestrated that. I have my suspicions, but whoever they were, whatever the purpose was, it was counterproductive, because what it did was it made me go back and actually start to pay more attention to Charlie and realize that, oh, actually he had way more good points than I gave him credit for. And ultimately, I think that it kind of just knocked the centrist slat out of the conservative sphere, where now all you have left is people who don't want compromise. And
you can't have it.
You can't have it because you get literally, you know, taken out on live stream. But anyways, the celebrating it was what was like really sickening to me. I ended up unfollowing a huge majority of people after that.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's just like, at that point, it's not even about left or right. It's like you lack actual humanity. Human
empathy.
You're an animal. You're a dog.
Yes.
And like,
and you'd be glad if you knew what I believe.
Right. You would be
celebrating.
You'd be celebrating the death of, you know, me, people I love,
my dad, my mom, my brothers. I mean, all of us. You know, like,
so
anyone who believes anything like that, it's.
Yeah. But and then obviously, but for me, I'm 26, you're
22.
22.
Yeah.
So my political, I guess, awakening took place, you know, obviously before that, probably in like 2016. And then I got burnt out. I got bored of it. I realized politics is not the exit. Christ is the exit of this world. That's That's the only escape, honestly. And but the Charlie event did make me kind of more seriously consider, like, okay, you can't totally resign yourself when it comes to these things. You actually should stand up for and like speak out against evil, ultimately evil. But I wanted to ask you about that because let's see here. Okay, another thing I wanted to ask you about is, you kind of follow Fuentes a little bit, right? You kind of.
I used to. I understand. Like I'm pretty up to date.
I think he has fairly. I don't agree with him on everything. I think he has fairly like astute political instincts, for better or worse. His saying that people need to vote Democrat, it's an interesting position to me. I'm not going to write it off entirely because obviously it's a radical idea. I don't agree with the Democrats on anything, but it's interesting to me that his whole philosophy behind it, and I guess let me know what you think, is that Republicans have pretty much screwed their whole base. Trump has betrayed his whole base by getting into the Iran conflict. He's just pretty much pulled the rug out from underneath everyone.
Yeah.
And they've kind of given up on trying to really enforce anything with regard to immigration. And so Fuentes, his idea is, if we show the Republican establishment that we are not a captive audience, then they will be forced to make some bold changes. And that he believes that voting for a Democrat would not be super harmful because you would still have like I think the way he put it was that you would still have enough Republicans in and Democrats in that they would just be able to kind of slow each other down, and it would be enough of a wake-up call to Republicans to actually like get their act together.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting kind of bold move. I think anytime there's like a stalemate going on where it feels like nothing is getting done or the opposite of something productive is getting done, I'm all for like interesting or bold solutions. I think I personally would have a crisis of conscience if I was to go and vote for like a Democrat. I just couldn't do it. But I do think it's an interesting strategy. You don't have to agree with something to say that it's at minimum interesting or different or a creative way of thinking. But I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, really.
Yeah, I had heard. Honestly, it's been a couple months since I've watched anything from Nick Fuentes. He is. I do agree with some of his political opinions and some of just his like social ideas are like he's very honest. He's the same reason I appreciate some of his takes, or the reason I used to like Ben Shapiro was because it was like he's not afraid to just say it. I don't like Ben Shapiro anymore as much. I used to. Keyword. He used to be the dude. It was like schooling people, and he was saying what we're all thinking, and he's taking the fall so that we can all have someone who kind of like represents what we believe. But I will say like some of the stuff that Fuentes says, I just like I can't condone it. I can't like defend it. You know what I mean? Not always about politics, mostly just like in a social sense about like women, things like that.
What did he say about women?
He would just say some crazy stuff. Like one of the ones I saw was just like, he talks about like how women. That was one of them. And
yeah, you gotta chill. You're on my podcast.
No, I mean like literally he said that.
All right,
like,
well,
literally.
all right. I'll bleep it out anyway.
So, he was saying some. He was just I don't know. He was saying some pretty insane stuff. Like people I knew were like sending me videos of it, and they're like, "Isn't this the guy that you said you agreed with?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, yeah, you can't agree with anybody 100%." Like,
people are gonna always try to morally blackmail you if you take any stance on anything.
Yeah.
So just because you support a person for one or two of their ideas doesn't mean you support everything that they've ever said.
Definitely,
yeah, people are dumb.
But like I understand his the idea of the Democrat thing. Like I've heard some people getting like super angry over it because he had kind of hinted around at it like before. But something needs to be done. I mean, we're kind of like at this point where there's a massive divide in the right between
thinking persons and NPCs.
Yeah, I mean literally like
Yeah.
Trump worshipers with the trucks wrapped and stuff, and then but something needs to change. So if this works, it will be pretty insane. But
Yeah.
I think you need to vote according to like Christ as well. So like if I were to vote for a Democrat and they were to,
Well, that's what I'm
super
saying. I
atheist
think what I would do is just not vote at all.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
Anyways, guys, this has been the Park Score Podcast. Thank you very much for watching.
Dude, that'll be funny.